This week's news from the tubes and F5 Live is probably powered by Malwarebytes. Whether you use a PC, a Mac, or a mobile device, Malwarebytes Premium is the company's strongest protection ever. It fights threats that traditional antivirus software can't stop, and it blocks threats like worms and dialers and spyware and bots and a whole bunch of other stuff. It allows you to use your computer and mobile devices with confidence and peace of mind. To learn more and to get a special price right now, you can go to f5live.tv/malwarebytes. So this is the topic I accidentally started talking about at the top of the show because, as I warned Abram, I flipped him around and I ended up messing up. We talked about Brave earlier, and now we have DuckDuckGo, the other search browser combo company that's focused on privacy. They have implemented a feature that tries to mimic what Apple did with the app tracking transparency feature that caused a huge uproar in the online marketing community when iOS 15 was announced earlier in the year. If you don't know, if you don't have an iPhone or an iPad, the app tracking transparency feature, basically when an app is going to do things to track you internally or to access some of the device's public data, it has to ask permission in the same way that your phone asks permission to access the camera or your photos or your location before it does it the first time. And you can say no, and it has to bug off. This works the exact same way on iPhone, and Android doesn't really have anything native to do that, and DuckDuckGo is adding it to their offering. Basically, the way it works is like a VPN on your device. In fact, it even registers on the Android device as a local VPN. Everything is processed on device. They have a database of tracking systems, and when a request through one of those tracking systems is made, it 404s it on the local VPN and just returns back to the app, logs that the attempt was made, and moves on. So, really interesting thing. Again, it's a company whose kind of sole existence is based around privacy. Some people don't care, but if you look at the way that users on iPhone and iPad have been responding with the app tracking transparency, a large majority have been asking apps not to track them. So it does seem to have hit a nerve. And maybe this is a feature that's gonna, we talked what makes Brave go mainstream, what makes cryptocurrency go mainstream. Maybe this is something that can help DuckDuckGo enter a more common consciousness. Of course, it's still a goofy name.
I think that this is just something that's going to get built into the OS eventually.
Probably.
This kind of thing puts pressure on on Android, on Google to build it into Android. I'm sure Google will leave themselves an out. So like they will fix it so that it makes it hard for marketers who are using Facebook or competing marketers, but Google will still have your data.
Of course. But Samsung and Microsoft will put their own spin on it to knock the Google stuff out too.
Every time we try to determine what apps get the data and the platform vendors initiate a big crackdown, what they're really doing is cracking down on smaller businesses, right? Because Google still gets to track you however it wants, right? Now, to be fair, who do you trust? I guess I trust Google with my data more than I trust someone who made a bubble popping app
Fair enough.
So, but some of this stuff comes from the permissions that you give the app as well. So you need to be careful what permissions you grant.
True. That's very true. There's that's one of the things that you and I have talked about on this show now for years. Is before you install an app, look at what it's asking for, because your solitaire game probably doesn't need access to your contacts, for example.
But this is all true, but I have installed apps where they've asked for something and I wasn't quite sure what it was. But if you turn it down, the app could crash because it could, right? So I've said
Yep.
yes to some things because I want to use this app. I don't want it to crash. There might be a reason that I'm not thinking of that it needs my contacts. And I'm not just thinking about the phone, but just other things that I've
Hmm.
signed up for online where it wanted to sync with my Google or my Facebook accounts or something, and they wanted access to my contacts. Like, why do you won't need it? I don't know.
Right. It's true.
So
That's why the example I always use is solitaire, since solitaire is not a social game. Uh, but yeah, there's a lot of potential shenanigans out there, and since DuckDuckGo does not have a tracking system, they they themselves are not interested in participating in that. Uh, you know, letting
yeah,
them be involved. At least you know that everything they know about is going to be
yeah.
filtered.
I mean, DuckDuckGo is the search engine of choice on Raspberry Pi. That's what they give you
Hmm.
as the default on Raspberry
It's
Pi
the
OS, and I think
it's the search engine of choice on Tor as well.
yeah, I think Linux users like DuckDuckGo. So I think it's thought of as a more ethical, more um, I don't know, secure, privacy friendly
Yeah.
service than Google or Bing.
Yeah, I've been doing a whole like search engine deep dive recently, and I generally like DuckDuckGo for search. I really like Brave for search, which I wasn't prepared for considering, they've existed for like an hour and a half. Um, I wasn't I wasn't prepared to like the way their search works. As much as I do, it's going to get better with time. They're just building their indexing, right now. Uh, but I like how it works. I like how DuckDuckGo works. I like that you can do it entirely without JavaScript, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
There is a fully functional version of DuckDuckGo that works without a single line of JavaScript. If you turn off JavaScript in your browser, it will redirect you to another version of the search, and it will work entirely without it, which is all pretty cool. So if you're really really privacy heavy, you can turn off JavaScript and continue to use DuckDuckGo. That's a company that's dedicated to privacy, writing a whole second version of their search engine.
Mm.
Pretty impressive. But I have I have signed up for the beta on this. I have not been approved for it yet. As soon as I am, I will write a little bit more about how all of it works. If you would like to try and sign up for the beta, you can get on the wait list. In the DuckDuckGo Android app, go to your settings, select app tracking protection under the privacy section, and then join the waiting list there. And they will add you. They're adding people every week. You can try out the feature if you are interested. Hello, YouTube. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of F5 Live Refreshing Technology. If you did, please subscribe to the channel down below, and of course, hit the notification bell because we know that subscriptions don't mean much on YouTube anymore. If you've got topics that you'd like us to talk about in the future, please comment them down below. And if you'd like to not follow us on YouTube, there's lots of ways that you can follow along with our content by going to plughitslive.com/subscribe. There you'll see all of our shows and all of the ways that you can watch, listen, and follow along.